What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And there's a brave new world out there for us all right now. But I wanted to take a trip down memory lane. So this is a second look at Captain America, the first Avenger. Also, it was originally sort of Captain America, but then they decided they needed to make more Captain America movies, so they really put a highlight emphasis on the first Avenger part, but not so much in the original material when it was released. Um, but after the MCU sort of became more clear, they really want you to know this is Captain America, the first Avenger, because there are now Avengers and more Captain America films. But this is a nice little stroll down what the hell lane. I didn't even realize, and it feels so odd at home. It feels like, did Disney just straight up buy the rights to this? I forgot that this movie was actually distributed by Paramount, and the Paramount logo is quite prominently featured at the beginning of the movie. It's like, Paramount and Marvel Studios present, and I'm like, the fuck? Excuse me. And I forgot that, I mean, I knew obviously like Incredible Hulk was coming out of Universal, but I thought I knew at some point we had reined in, so they were all coming out of Disney, and I hadn't really given a lot of thought to at what point that was. It's not Captain America. Captain America is a Paramount movie, so somehow Disney is probably paying to keep this movie on Disney Plus, where it does have audio description. Actually, has really good audio description. I enjoyed the audio description, which has some character descriptors in there. It monitors quite a broad little grouping of people, a cast, an ensemble of all of these little supporting characters. You know, the gang that will end up becoming Cap's squad throughout the course of the film. It moves at a pretty good pace as a film. It's directed by Joe Johnston. So it's my second time watching it. And we've got, of course, Chris Evans. There's no Falcon here. So if you're gearing up just for Falcon purposes, you're watching this so you have greater knowledge for just the totality of the Captain America franchise, and less so specifically for Anthony Mackie's Falcon, who won't be introduced until Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So Cap is just Chris Evans, and it talks all about his sort of determination and bravery and kindness and goodness, and that's all the reasons why, even though he's weak here, and the special effects, which don't really translate through the audio description, I just happen to remember them. They really went out of their way to kind of make sort of like how we do these aging and de-aging things. They tried to make Chris Evans look as scrawny and unhealthy as humanly possible, so he looks thinner for some reason. He looks like a visual effect, like at some times, because they've done work to him to kind of make him look not even just like himself, less than, you know. So he and Bucky are growing up, and he's got a lot of fight in him, and the war and the Nazis. We got to kill the Nazis, and we're also shown that there are these programs that are happening, and we get Howard Stark, who's looking forward to the future, and over in Germany, there's also Red Skull and Zola, and you know, doing some devious work. This is the only time that Hugo Weaving will ever play Red Skull, so if you're really interested in how Hugo Weaving would play Red Skull, well, this is the movie, because after this, it's Ross Marquand from The Walking Dead, who is great at doing impersonations and matches Hugo Weaving as much as he possibly can. So, I've liked this movie. It's not my favorite Captain America movie, but I think this is definitely a good start Joe Johnston is a pretty accessible director who just drops into things and makes good, not great movies. He's the kind of director who's not really an auteur. He just makes fun and entertaining films. He makes films work. Um, like I actually am one of the probably a few people who actually likes Jurassic Park 3, because I think that movie has enough beats that work for me. Uh, I I one of the I know it's such a silly moment, but I always come back to just the idea of William H. Macy trying to like pay for in this dilapidated thing. He's trying to use the food machine in Jurassic Park 3. And he's like, I don't have enough. Does anybody have any change? And that one dude just like roundhouse kicks the machine. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? I love that scene so much because I feel like it just, it's like situational awareness. Like, dude, no one's coming back. There's, no one cares if you break into the machine. Look around you, man. Nobody serviced this at the machine. Is it even on? Like, is there even power? So, um, yeah, he makes fun and accessible movies that you will forget he's the director of. Um, and that's the best thing I can say about him. There are a lot of directors like that too, though, who just they're sort of like popcorn directors, and that they're never going to hear their name called for Best Director at the Academy Awards. I know John M. Chu is kind of trying to break out of that mold by directing musicals now, and now with Wicked. But when you really look at his body of work of being like Step Up in GI Joe movies, I mean that is he basically in that category. So there's nothing wrong with that category. We need accessible films, and not everybody's going to be an auteur. And if every film was an auteur film, I think people would be exhausted at the end of the day by, um, you know, uh, choices instead of just having something you can just sit down and turn on and just go, mindless entertainment. Every once in a while is perfectly okay. And that's kind of what this is. This is just kind of mindless entertainment. It's just done well. It's just it's a great introduction to Chris Evans as Captain America. He makes for a really great Captain America. I love Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes. Um, and the host of other characters. I keep wanting to call her Captain Carter now, Hayley Atwell, because I've seen too much Marvel stuff, so it's really hard for me every time they say Agent Carter. I'm like, isn't it Captain? No, it's not Captain Carter. That's right, because that hasn't actually happened in anything other than like What If. But yeah, obviously Hayley Atwell signed into this and then got her own TV series, so worked out for her. And although the TV series didn't run very, very long, it does have a loyal, devoted audience. Um, and those are sort of like your lead characters, with Hugo Weaving playing Red Skull as being like the main villain and trying to navigate the story of how Captain America came to be. And then he sort of just becomes like an emblem for America without actually fighting. And then finally, when something happens to Bucky, he gets in the fight, and they're like, that's dangerous territory. We can't, send. And he just goes in himself, and rescues like everyone. And like that great moment where like everybody believes he's not, like he died or didn't come back. And I was like, well, we wasted that guy. I don't know. And then he comes back and he's got like this army of people with him. So that's a great moment. Also, I don't know if you remember this or not, but Tommy Lee Jones has done something in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I had totally forgotten. That's on me. I don't know if that's with you, but I had totally forgotten. Now that we're in like Brave New World and they're pulling people out of their ass from old movies, I just want to point out Tommy Lee Jones was in Brave New World and is in play for any sort of weird asinine thing that they want to do in another movie where they're like, hey, remember that guy who was in that one movie a long time ago and we've never talked to him again? Well, now they're a key element of this film. Hope you've seen all the Marvel movies. Bye! Which is basically what Brave New World is. Yes, I've already seen Brave New World, and I holding that review until I actually go back through and watch all the other Captain America movies. So, yes, Tommy Lee Jones. Totally forgot he was in this. Totally forgot. But he's good. I mean, he's just sort of like an angry general. It's a nice performance, but it's also a forgettable one. It's definitely, when you think about Tommy Lee Jones's career, you're like, okay, well, I mean, that makes sense to cast him in that role, but also that man's got like a ton of performances that are way more memorable than this, you know. So the fact that he's in one Marvel movie is not really, you know. Of course, Nick Fury pops up, Samuel L. Jackson. This is the time period where Samuel L. Jackson, they were still trying to form the Avengers, so he just like was in every possible movie for like 5 seconds, you know, for like, I have a job for you. Hello, well, I'm Nick Fury. Let me talk to you about something. You know, I mean, like whatever he has to do at some point at the end of the movie. So, uh, this, you know, this explains Cap and the time jump and the um at the end of the movie he has to sacrifice himself, and of course everybody thinks he's dead, but actually he survived. This is one of the reasons why Sam should drink the super serum, is because what Cap survives here, you I don't know that that vibranium suit's going to keep him from surviving something like that. Maybe it will. Doubtful. But Cap is alive, and then he wakes up, and they're like, "Oh, it's been 70 years," and he's like, "What?" Excuse me. He knows immediately that he's in some sort of like fake ass cell because they're playing a baseball game on the radio that is older than when he went to, like, when he got knocked out. I'm like, dude, you guys couldn't even do enough research to make sure that the games on the radio were like not from before. Like the game is too old. Anyway, um I mean, it's okay to be like, you've been in a coma for a few years, and then playing like a game from that he hasn't heard yet, that's maybe a little couple years past. And he's like, oh, how long have I been out? A couple years? Oh, okay. 70? Oh my. Anyway, I would have tried to at least balance it the other direction and be like, why don't we make sure we get this right? But that poor woman, and I'm like, now I think about all the people who come in and out. I'm like, how many fake nurses does he have? Because he's been here for 70 years. There are likely nurses who have come in and checked on him, who have like quit, gone on to do other things, died from old age, married. I mean, like, you can make like a whole sub story of the nurses that watched Captain America for 70 years, because it's probably like a highly secretive job. So, you know, you can't tell anybody about it, but at the same time, so there aren't that many people who've ever done it. But at the same time, that girl was young. She definitely had not been doing that for 70 years. So, what happened to the ones that were? The ones that once were. Anyway, things you can muse on in movies when the writers go, I don't know, nobody cares. And it's like, but do they? So, Captain America, the first Avenger, I really like the audio description track. I like the narrator's voice. I think it's nice and strong. It's a good movie. It's not my favorite Captain America movie. It's not, I wouldn't say in the top echelon of Marvel films, but it's in the second tier of Marvel films, you know. It's not in the third, fourth, or however many tiers there are of Marvel films. This is definitely a second tier Marvel film for me. I've seen it a couple times and I enjoy it every time, even though I know it's coming, which is always a good sign. And except Tommy Lee Jones, I'd completely forgotten he was in this, even though I've seen this movie at least 3 or 4 times. At least 3 or 4 times I've seen this movie. So, yeah, I'm gonna give Captain America: The First Avenger a B+. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And remember, diversity, equity, and inclusivity are not bad words. I'll see you guys on the other side.